Most men are doing it wrong every single time they go to the bathroom. Not because they're careless, not because they don't care about their health, but because nobody ever told them the truth about what's actually happening down there. And the habit they've been practicing their entire lives is making the problem dramatically worse. Here's what almost no one talks about. The pressure you feel, the trips in the middle of the night, the stream that starts slow, stops, starts again, the feeling that you're never quite done, that constant low-grade anxiety every time you're more than 10 minutes from a bathroom. All of that, not just about prostate size, not just about age. And here's the part that might completely change how you think about this. A massive piece of what you're experiencing every single day could be something you're doing to yourself without realizing it. Something that starts before you even reach the toilet. And the question I want you to sit with for the next few minutes is this: what if the very thing you're doing to try to push through it is the exact reason it's getting worse? I'll answer that. But first, I need to show you what's actually going on inside your body right now. Because most men over 60 are dealing with something they've never been told the name of. And once you understand it, you can't unsee it. I am Doctor, and if you want to keep receiving important content about health after 60, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Now, let's get into this because what I'm about to explain changes everything. Your prostate isn't working alone. That's the first thing you need to understand. Most men picture their urinary system as a simple pipe. Prostate gets bigger, pipe gets smaller, flow gets worse. That's the version you hear everywhere, but that's only part of the story. And the part that's missing is the part that could help you starting today. There are three things that directly control what happens every time you try to urinate. The first is the prostate itself. Yes, but the second is your pelvic floor, and the third is your nervous system. And here's what most doctors don't explain in a 7-minute office visit. Those last two things are trainable right now without surgery, without adding another pill. Your pelvic floor is a group of muscles that sits at the base of your torso like a hammock. And for most men over 60 who've been dealing with urinary symptoms, that hammock has turned into a clenched fist. It's been contracting and tightening year after year in response to weak flow, urgency, nighttime waking, stress, the unconscious bracing that happens every time you approach a bathroom, and hope, really hope, that it's going to go okay this time. That tension is real. It's physical. You can feel it if you pay attention, and it is directly making your situation worse. But there's something even more important hiding underneath this, and I'll get to it in a moment because this is where things get surprising. Let me describe your mornings first because I want you to feel how accurate this is. You wake up at 2 in the morning or 3. Sometimes it's before your alarm by a full hour and a half. You don't spring out of bed, you kind of drift half asleep doing the calculation of whether you can wait it out. You can't. So you go, and when you get there, it takes a second to start, then it goes for a bit, then it kind of trails off. You stand there waiting, wondering if there's more, then you go back to bed. 20 minutes later, maybe 30, sometimes less, the urge comes back and now you're really awake. This is not just inconvenient, this is fragmented sleep. And fragmented sleep at your age is a health issue in its own right. It affects your mood, your focus, your testosterone, your heart, your immune system. It affects the way you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror at 6 in the morning, groggy, slower than you used to be, wondering when this became your life. But here's what most men don't realize. An incomplete feeling, the sense that your bladder never fully emptied, is often not because the passage is too narrow. It's because the muscles that are supposed to release and allow complete emptying are staying braced. They never fully let go, and the bladder keeps signaling that it's not done because it isn't done because the exit never fully opened. This is the cycle. Tension creates incomplete emptying. Incomplete emptying creates residual urine. Residual urine irritates the bladder wall. Bladder irritation creates urgency. Urgency creates anxiety. Anxiety creates more tension, and around it goes. You've been living inside that loop. And here's the part nobody told you. You can interrupt it. The habit I'm going to show you takes about 30 seconds. It costs nothing. You don't need equipment, supplements, or a prescription. And for a significant number of men, it produces noticeable results within the first few days. Not because it shrinks tissue overnight. Real tissue change is slower than that, but because it immediately changes the mechanical conditions that keep the whole system irritated and stuck. Here's how it works. The next time you go to the bathroom, before you do anything else, stop. Don't rush. Don't approach the toilet like a problem you need to force your way through. Stand there or sit, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. And do this. Take a slow breath in through your nose, or seconds, not deep and dramatic, just enough that you feel your lower ribs expand slightly. Then let it out through your mouth. 6 to 8 seconds, long and controlled, like you're breathing on a cold window to fog it up. Not fast, not forced, slow. While you exhale, Do these things simultaneously. Soften your jaw, drop your shoulders away from your ears, let your belly go completely loose, no sucking in, no holding, and then do something that will feel strange the first time you try it. Imagine the floor of your pelvis, that whole region between your legs, letting go downward like an elevator dropping one floor, not pushing down, not bearing down, just releasing, letting gravity do what it's supposed to do. That's the first half of the habit, the long exhale release. Now begin urinating. Keep your face relaxed. Keep your shoulders down. Keep your belly soft. If the stream takes a second to start, let it. Don't push. Don't help it. Don't contract your abdomen, trying to force pressure. The pressure needs to come from the bladder itself, not from you forcing it from the outside. When you strain and push, you're actually working against the system. You're increasing intra-abdominal pressure in a way that can compress the very outlet you're trying to open. And about sitting down, I want to address this directly because I know some men feel resistance to it. A lot of urologists, including colleagues I respect deeply, quietly recommend this to their patients and almost never say it publicly. When you sit, your pelvic floor naturally relaxes in a way that's much harder to achieve standing. You're not bracing for balance. Your thighs aren't tense. The whole region just settles. Many men who start sitting at home, not in public, not always, just when it's practical, notice a real difference in how completely they empty. This isn't about identity. It's about angles and muscle tension. It's mechanics. Now here's the second half of the habit, the part most men have never done in their lives. When you finish, don't leave. I know that sounds simple, but most men zip up the moment they think they're done and walk away, and then wonder why the urge comes back in 5 minutes. Instead, stay where you are. Count to 10 slowly in your head. During those 10 seconds, do one more long exhale. Same thing, 6 to 8 seconds. Belly soft, pelvis release downward, and then just wait. See if there's a second release. Often there is. Sometimes small, sometimes surprisingly significant. That's the double empty. And when you put it together with the exhale release, you've got a complete 30-second routine that directly targets what creates residual urine and the misery that comes with it. Less residual urine means less bladder irritation. Less irritation means fewer urgency signals. Fewer signals means fewer trips. Fewer trips at night means better sleep. Better sleep means everything else in your body works better. It's a chain reaction, and you start it every single time you use the bathroom correctly. Now, I want to go deeper into why this works, because understanding the mechanism is what makes it stick. Your nervous system has two main modes. You've probably heard of fight or flight. That's the state of activation. And then there's rest and digest. That's the state of recovery and normal function. Here's something that will surprise you. Your bladder, your pelvic floor, and your urinary system operate almost exclusively in rest and digest mode. When your nervous system is in an activated state, stressed, anxious, rushing, your pelvic floor tightens automatically. It's not a conscious choice. It's a survival reflex that's been part of human wiring for 200,000 years. The problem is modern life keeps a lot of men in a low-grade activated state most of the time. Traffic, finances, health worries, family stress, the news. And for men dealing with urinary symptoms, there's a very specific anxiety that feeds the system constantly. The background fear of not being close enough to a bathroom, of being caught off guard, of leaking in front of someone, of having to excuse yourself from an important conversation. That anxiety alone is enough to keep the pelvic floor chronically tight. The long exhale is a direct signal to your nervous system that it's safe, that it can downshift. Research on breathing and autonomic nervous system regulation consistently shows that extended exhalations activate the parasympathetic system, the rest and digest side. When your nervous system shifts, your pelvic floor responds, the muscles release, the outlet opens, the bladder empties more completely. This is not a metaphor. This is physiology, and it works fast because nervous system responses happen in seconds, not weeks. But there's another layer here that I haven't mentioned yet, and this is where it connects directly to the prostate conversation. The prostate sits in a location that is anatomically strategic and anatomically vulnerable. It wraps around the urethra right at the base of the bladder. When the surrounding tissue is inflamed, congested, or under repeated mechanical stress, the prostate itself can become irritated, not just from growth, but from the constant pressure created by straining, pushing, and bearing down. Every time you force a stream, you're increasing pressure in the entire pelvic region. Over months and years, that repeated pressure contributes to chronic irritation, microinflammation, and that tight, swollen feeling that doesn't match what a scan shows. When you switch from forcing to releasing, you remove that mechanical stress. And when you remove the stress consistently, tissues begin to calm. Swelling related to congestion and inflammation can reduce, over days to weeks. The whole region starts working with you instead of against you. Here's something I want you to think about. Two men can have the same prostate measurements on an ultrasound, same size, same age, but one of them feels fine and the other one can't sleep through the night. The difference isn't anatomy, it's tension, it's pelvic floor function, it's nervous system state. It's the mechanics of what happens in the 30 seconds they spend in the bathroom. You can be the man who functions well. That's not wishful thinking, that's biology. Now, and this is important, I want to talk about mistakes because I've described this habit to a lot of men, and there are 5 specific ways they mess it up. If you do any of these, you will not see the results you're looking for. The first mistake is turning the exhale into a push. This is the most common one. Men hear exhale and release, and they unconsciously bear down at the same time, trying to force things along with abdominal pressure. That is the opposite of what you want. The exhale is passive. The pelvis releases downward. It does not get squeezed downward. If you feel your stomach tightening, stop and soften it. The whole point is surrender, not effort. The second mistake is rushing the pause. The 10 seconds after you think you're done feels like a long time when you're in a hurry, but that pause is doing real work. The bladder needs time to detect that there's still urine present and trigger a second contraction. If you leave immediately, you skip the very mechanism that reduces residual urine. Set a mental timer, count slowly, it's 10 seconds, you have 10 seconds. The third mistake is doing this as a performance rather than a feeling. Men start counting breaths, monitoring their pelvic floor, mentally grading their technique, and that mental activity is keeping the nervous system engaged, which is working against the relaxation response you're trying to create. Stop trying to do it perfectly. Find the feeling, long breath out, jaw soft, belly loose, floor of pelvis drops, and trust the feeling. The body knows what to do once you stop getting in the way. The fourth mistake is ignoring what's happening in the bowel. I know this isn't the glamorous part of the conversation, but it's critical. Your bowel and your bladder share real estate in your pelvis. They are directly adjacent. When the bowel is backed up, even mildly, not just obviously constipated, but just slower than it should be, it creates pressure that presses on the bladder and can significantly worsen urgency, frequency, and the sense of incomplete emptying. Many men focus entirely on the prostate and never look at what's happening in the bowel. If you're not having a regular, complete bowel movement at least once daily, that is a lever worth pulling. Water, fiber, movement, it makes everything in that region work better. The fifth mistake is doing everything right in the bathroom and then sabotaging the system at night. Alcohol before bed, a large glass of water or juice at 900 p.m., caffeinated tea in the evening. These choices keep the bladder filling after you've gone to sleep. The habit helps your mechanics enormously, but it cannot override a non-stop inflow. 2 practical rules. Stop drinking anything significant at least 90 minutes before bed. And if you wake up in the middle of the night and use the habit slow exhale, full release, double empty, you'll often find you can go back to sleep without the usual 20-minute lying awake wondering if you really emptied cycle. And if you want a complete practical resource covering the specific mistakes men make after 60 that quietly damage the prostate over time, the Guar Ost is available in the pinned comment right below this video. It's the clinical companion to everything we're covering here. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Marcus, 64 years old, semi-retired. He had been waking up an average of 3 times a night for almost 2 years. His doctor had confirmed some enlargement, nothing alarming, but enough to explain the symptoms. The medication helped a little, but not as much as he hoped. What nobody had ever explained to him was what he was doing. Every time he got up at night, he would wake up, stumble to the bathroom, grip the sink for balance, tense every muscle in his body trying to push it out quickly so he could get back to sleep, zip up and go. Repeated micro-straining every single night. The habit took him 4 days to learn in a way that felt natural. By day 7, he was waking up once most nights. Within 3 weeks, he had nights where he slept all the way through. The prescription didn't change, his anatomy didn't change, the way he used the bathroom changed. Then there's a man I'll call Gerald, 69 years old, retired engineer. His problem wasn't nighttime waking. His problem was that he couldn't be anywhere without mentally mapping the nearest bathroom the moment he walked through the door. Restaurants, theaters, his son's house, his daughter's wedding, always scanning, always calculating, always somewhere in the back of his mind, managing the contingency. When we talked about the pelvic floor tension that was at the root of his urgency pattern, he actually laughed a little. He said, "I didn't even know I was doing it." He was gripping all the time in the car, in meetings, standing in line. When he started doing the 2-minute breathing reset during the day, not just in the bathroom, but as a daily practice. Same inhale for 4, exhale for 6 to 8, belly relaxed. The urgency began to lose its unpredictability. It didn't disappear overnight, but the stranglehold it had on his day loosened. He stopped building his whole schedule around bathroom proximity that he said was the real freedom. Now back to that question I opened with. What if the very thing you're doing to push through it is the reason it's getting worse? Here's the answer. Men learn early that when something needs to get done, you push through it. You apply effort. You don't give up. That's a great principle for a lot of life. It is a terrible principle for your pelvic floor. The harder you push, the tighter you grip. The tighter you grip, the less opens. And the less that opens, the more pressure you feel and the more you push. This is a loop that only breaks in one direction, and that direction is release. The habit I've described is not passive. It's an active decision to stop fighting your own body. And for a lot of men, that's actually harder than trying to force things. It requires trust. It requires patience. It requires doing the opposite of what every male instinct says to do in a difficult moment. But that's exactly why it works. If you want to stack on top of this habit, here are a few things that directly support what you're building. First, add a 10-minute walk after your biggest meal of the day. Not for weight loss, not for cardio, for circulation and blood sugar regulation. When glucose swings sharply after eating, inflammatory signals increase throughout the body, including in the pelvic region. Gentle movement after a meal keeps that spike smaller and keeps pelvic blood flow moving. Second, check when you're drinking caffeine. Coffee and black tea are bladder irritants for a lot of men. Not everyone, but if your last cup is at 2 in the afternoon and you're wondering why urgency gets worse in the evening, try shifting your cutoff earlier and watch what changes. Third, consider warmth. A warm shower directed at the lower abdomen and inner hips for a few minutes is not a gimmick. Warmth signals muscle relaxation at a physiological level. It increases local blood flow. It tells the nervous system that this area is safe and cared for. Some men do this before bed as part of a wind-down routine and notice that the first bathroom trip of the night either gets pushed back or disappears entirely. Now, before I wrap up, I want to say something directly. If you are experiencing blood in your urine, a sudden complete inability to urinate, severe pelvic pain, unexplained weight loss or fever along with urinary symptoms, do not rely on habits and lifestyle changes. Those are warning signs that need a clinical evaluation. Go get checked. Everything I've shared today works within the context of regular medical care, not instead of it. If you're already on a prescribed treatment plan, this habit doesn't conflict with it. It supports it. You're removing a layer of mechanical stress that was working against everything else. But if you're in that large and often overlooked category of men who have been told it's just BPH and sent home with a pamphlet, you are not out of options. The system is trainable. The muscles are responsive. The nervous system is flexible, and the 30 seconds you spend in the bathroom today can begin a process of real measurable change. Tonight, when you go to the bathroom, try it once, just once. Inhale slowly through your nose for 4 seconds. Exhale through your mouth for 6 to 8 seconds. Long and controlled, jaw relaxed, shoulders down, belly soft, floor of pelvis letting go. Let the stream begin without pushing. Stay relaxed throughout. When you think you're done, count to 10. Exhale again. Wait for the second release. That's it. Do that every time for the next week. Not perfectly, consistently. And notice what changes. Your body is not your enemy in this. It's been trying to protect you with the tools it had. You're just giving it better tools now. And if what we talked about today made you think about circulation and how blood flow affects everything from urinary function to energy and recovery, I've already made a video that goes directly into that connection. It's appearing right here on your screen right now. Watch that next. Because what happens in the vessels that supply the pelvic region is connected to everything we just talked about. And there's one thing in particular that most men over 60 are getting completely wrong without knowing it. That video will show you what it